We're getting some heat out here on the East
Yeah, it's
Coast.
getting a little warm here, but it's not that bad.
It's a good time for Wi-Fi. Everyone's like in hotels and traveling, so
It was Wi-Fi day
it's
yesterday,
oh, was it
World Wi-Fi Day
World Wi-Fi
yesterday.
Day? Oh, I didn't
You
ask
didn't know
you.
that?
I did not. What about the show? The Hitech, is that coming up
That's next week.
next? Are you guys going?
We will be there.
Oh,
We'll be there with a new booth.
nice.
There's four of us that will be there, mostly from the product and marketing side.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that should be fun. That's in Charlotte.
Charlotte. I,
You should go. There's a lot of shows in Charlotte now.
yeah, I can drive that in like a couple hours.
Yeah, man, bring the vet
Like,
or
it's
the Rivian.
No, I don't want to put the miles on those things right now. So all right, so today we want to talk. So that's a good show. That and what that's for.
Hospitality.
Hospitality. Yeah, it's an excellent show for hospitality.
Yep.
Um, and so if anyone's down there, go say hi to Brian. So we want to talk about the new feature that EnGenius rolled out called AVXpress this week.
Yep. Yeah, AVXpress. So AVXpress actually runs on. It was just the. It's been loaded into the firmware, so you already probably most APs have the firmware already, and it will run on Wi-Fi 6 and Wi-Fi 7 APs, not the Wi-Fi 5.
Okay.
Because it needs the extra horsepower, so that's where those APs are key.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was launched on the GUI yesterday. That can be programmed under the SSID configuration.
Yeah, I'll put up a picture.
You'll
Of what it looks
notice
like.
two new tabs. One tab was already there. There's Hotspot 2.0, which we talked about with open roaming. That's been added, and there's another tab called Application Aware, I believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have to look to remember, make sure I'm right. Um, and then under there, you can actually configure like you can create an SSID or modify an SSID, right?
Yep.
And it's actually called application control. And under application control, you want to make sure you enable application aware, which identifies the packets and what applications are running, through those packets or
Mm-hmm.
what type of packet that is. And then you want to enable AVXpress. And so once you enable that, you can select. Basically, you have three. I don't know what you would call it, like flavors or priorities.
Yeah,
General,
fast,
fast,
and express.
express. Yeah.
Yeah, we're showing it
That's
now.
Yep. So voice is already at express.
Mm-hmm.
So you can, for your video conference, streaming, online gaming, and other, you can turn those on to, keep it at general or turn it to fast or express.
Okay.
And once that, and there's an application list to give you some ideas of like the different types of applications and what they fall in line for. Like voice calls are like SIP, Skype. Video conferencing is like Teams, Google Meet, WebEx. I don't see Skype on there, but it should be on there.
I'm sure it's there. We're using it now, right? You actually have it enabled.
Yep, have it enable. Actually, you are running on, and I'm running on the Wi-Fi 7 AP, the 4x4. I'm running on 6 gigahertz right now, and I have this AV Express turned on too, enabled.
Yep.
But so yeah, you would enable it there, and then simply apply to the SSIDs you want to use. Now you have to keep in mind, it does take away from. Like if you're doing speed tests, you'll see a little bit of a difference because now the AP is tagging all these packets.
Yeah.
So it can prioritize it, right? So it's it's marking using DSCP.
Okay.
And so once it's marked by the AP, our switches also identify the packet as well, and will prioritize the packet all the way through like our gateway.
Nice.
So it prioritized through not only just the wireless, but also through the wired. And what we felt was needed in this prioritization is just keeping it like super simple for anybody to be able to do it. So you didn't have to go in because there's different companies that there's other vendors that do it different ways, and some are not true prioritization.
Mm-hmm.
That was one thing that we saw that we recognized, and then the other was they made it very, very complicated, and then there was more work that had to be done throughout the wired network as well. So like on an EnGenius network, we wanted to make it as easy as possible and let it flow all the way through, and have true prioritization all the way through the wireless and wired network.
Yeah, there are some like Wi-Fi protocols for multimedia, WMM, right? Multimedia prioritization, but that would only be on the Wi-Fi side, and I haven't heard like how well that actually works.
It works fairly well, but yeah, this is definitely the better way to do it.
It's your own protocol to prioritize traffic, and yeah, if you're doing speed tests with it on, you're not going to see the fastest numbers because the APs have to do more work. But as you can see, the video is nice and clear. You won't have breakups on any of your like mission critical applications, which is more important than doing speed tests for most businesses.
Yeah. I mean, in the residential space where you have owners that do speed tests, that's their test, right?
Yeah.
They may not understand it. Unless you have it enabled prior and they're happy with it, then it's fine. But if they're constantly, if it's one of those customers that does like a constant test, I'm not getting my 1 gigabit or I'm not getting my 500 megabits, then, you might have to explain. But, and then there's some people that just don't care as long as it's working and they can do a video call, for example.
And it's based on SSID. So you could have one SSID just for general connectivity, so they can do their speed tests and not have that overhead in that SSID, but then enable it on another SSID that's for video streaming or something like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, you would still see performance because the SSID is operating on the same AP. Maybe you have eight SSIDs. Yeah. It's all operating on the same AP, so you're probably still going to see that if it's enabled.
Okay.
And it did you and I saw that early on with Wi-Fi 5. You saw a dramatic change when you had application aware.
Yeah.
Where you're identifying the type of applications that are running through the AP.
Yeah.
So on Wi-Fi 5, there was a dramatic difference. With Wi-Fi 6 and then now Wi-Fi 7, way less of a difference.
Okay. So yeah, these new APs have plenty of horsepower to do it, but I in general just leave it off because I don't care about the applications that much, and I'm always doing speed tests, so I turn it off right away. The application awareness, is it enabled by default, or it is?
I don't recall. I think it is.
I think it is. Yeah,
that's how when you go to the dashboard, you can see the applications.
Right.
When you turn it off, it won't show the applications on the dashboard.
Right.
So.
Right.
I think by default it is on because we want you to have that experience where you see the applications that people are running.
Yeah, and I'm sure it actually having it on makes the whole network more efficient because the APs are doing stuff in the background. It's probably doing some side traffic prioritization anyway, even without AVXpress on.
Right.
So all right. So yeah, AVXpress it's definitely, so if you're having problems with any kind of buffering, with your video streaming, like in hotels or things like that, right? I would say it'd be perfect for hotels to enable because, you're going to have a lot of video streaming, gaming going on in those hotels.
A lot of gaming, yeah.
And that's going to prioritize that kind of traffic, whereas downloads and things like that, can sometimes just sap all that bandwidth, right? If someone's downloading a big file.
Right.
And, in a hotel, they're downloading a big spreadsheet or something, and someone else is trying to game or watch a stream. You don't want that traffic breaking up.
That's right. Yep.
So I think that'd be a perfect environment to enable it, and probably schools too. They're doing video presentations or remote learning, things like that. You want to prioritize that streaming traffic and not so much if they're downloading TikTok videos or something like that. Maybe you can turn that back, right?
Yeah, and in the MDU space as well, that would be another place.
Yeah.
But you might want to do that one's a tough one because you're doing online gaming, you're doing streaming, and you're doing video conferencing because you have work from home and. But maybe you could set that you could set the prioritization through the SSID too. So
yeah, for sure, you can have different SSIDs for different functions, but we don't want to have too many SSIDs either, right? Because then that that will.
That's why we limit to 8 anyway.
Yeah. It starts to make
but
the
yeah,
network.
I don't even think you would want to run 8, but
No.
some people do.
Yeah, I mean, I know some people want to run a lot, but I mean, it increases the overhead, right? It makes it less efficient.
Overhead on the Wi-Fi side, yeah.
Yeah. So,
right.
I mean, more SSIDs aren't necessarily good, but if you have, 2, 3, 4 is not a problem if you have good use for them. You don't want to create an SSID for every room, right? Unless you really need to.
Right.
But we do see like
happen.
in the schools, like sometimes they do have an SSID for every room, right?
I haven't seen it in schools. I've only seen like staff and like students, but it
Okay.
hasn't been per classroom or anything like that, or like per building,
Mm-hmm.
which is not a big deal because you have some separation between buildings and
Right.
things. I have seen per floor kind of situations
Yeah.
as well. But yeah,
Minimize the
there
SSIDs.
there are some that do like per, like in NDUs they do per like resident, which I understand because the resident has they have their own, they have their own network, right?
Yeah.
So it's their house, so they have their own, SSID, like the Slayman family or whatever, or the
Yeah.
Keenan family, right?
Yeah, for sure. That can be a problem. I think what they should use is what's the pre-shared key called?
Oh, my PSK.
My PSK. Yeah. So individual pre-shared keys. That way you identify the user, right? And you can push them back on to their own access point.
Yes. Yep.
Using that. But that's another way to do it. All right, Brian, anything else you want to talk about today? All right, sounds
No,
good.
make sure you go to Hitech. We'll be
Hitech.
there. Stop by. We're handing out some cool WTF t-shirts and some socks.
Awesome.
Some cloud socks.
Always can use some cloud socks. All right, remember.
I'm hand carrying all this stuff, so I got to get rid of it.
Remember, like and subscribe.